everybody, what's happening? I'm back speaking about this wonderful, beautiful, awesome band, the Beatles. I'm being kind of quiet because it's pretty late at night and I don't want to disturb my neighbors, but maybe we can make it like an NPR type of thing or ASMR type of thing. If you enjoy ASMR, it might be the kind of thing you like. I don't know. I don't know if we should change tactics. I don't know. Maybe we should. Screw it, let's go. Anyway, welcome back. I know I told you that I was going to shoot until next week, but it turns out that these episodes just came out one after the other this last weekend. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm speaking about the Beatles documentary by Peter Jackson called Get Back on Apple TV. You can still check it out because obviously it just started streaming last Thanksgiving. So throughout the weekend they had been playing first part 1, then part 2, and now finally part 3. So we're finally here at the point where we have seen it, we know how it went, and it's official. Billy Preston was the 5th Beatle. Yeah, you heard it. Right? I mean, John was so keen on getting him in the band, you know, one number, and he was like, you're in the group. So that was really cool to watch because John was also very, very excited about Martin Luther King's speech, I Have a Dream, that same morning, because this is 1969, that same morning, he had heard that, was morning or afternoon, or something like that, he heard that I Have a Dream speech, you know, in Washington. So like, it's so funny that, I find it really awesome that we're watching history being made. I mean, talk about lately, obviously, history is being made every day, right? But it was really cool to see all these historical points meet at one specific point. The really cool thing about this situation was because the fact that he also spoke about Fleetwood Mac. He was telling everybody, hey, you guys, did you watch last night, you know, on late night? Fleetwood Mac was on and they were amazing. I mean, like, he's a fan. He was a fan. And it's really cool to listen to your favorite rock star speak about people they admire. It's really cool, you know. So there was another instance where and the guys are, I think, finishing up a practice, and they say, oh, it's Elvis' birthday, and they go, you know, John gets into an attention, stands and does a salute, and then I think Paul says something to the lines are, to our fearless leader, or something like, to our fearless king, or something like that. Again, fans of Elvis. I love that. I love that. I love that. Because, I mean, you guys gotta remember, they were fans. They were fans of American rock and roll. And American, anything American, you know. So I find it just quite, I don't know, it's just something really cool. Because it's like, oh, psychological stuff that was going around. I mean, for instance, in the last episode, it ended a little sour, a little, it was a cliffhanger, right? What's gonna happen, even though we knew. To watch George walk out, So apparently, I think that what must have happened is that Yoko sat on one of the amps, and that bothered George, and he just said, I'm leaving the band. John said, when? He said, now. So anyway, it ended badly, that first part, but then on the second part, you get Ringo walking in first to the next practice rehearsal. They gotta write these songs, right? And obviously they're incomplete now. They had met at George's house, and it didn't go well because apparently Yoko was doing a lot of the talking for John, and obviously George was like, screw this, what are we doing here, So they, again, a lot of psychological stuff because they all had issues with each other, right? But it was like George felt unappreciated, felt like Paul was being critical of his playing, because Paul would be like, no, play it this way, play it that way. It's like, just play it like the way I play it. And George would be like, I can't play it like you play it because I'm not you, which is a pretty obvious statement and a pretty, and a big one too. But it was really cool because John, there was a point where they meet at a cafeteria, and they left a hidden microphone on like the flower pot in the center of the table. So these two guys, John and Paul, are having a conversation, and it's the most intriguing conversation ever because you're starting to see the dynamics between them, how they interacted with each other, who was on top of whom. John was saying, we can't tell you anything because you don't accept our input, but you constantly want us to do it your way, and I just let you have your way, and now the band has gone to a point where I didn't want it to go, but I couldn't help it because I couldn't deal with all of your thing I just decided to just give you your way. And then turns out that he would do the same thing to George, like bring me your stuff, but then I'll just knock it down. So George was getting it from both of them, and so obviously the frustration, right before that Ringo had left, and he came back because, he thought, these guys play guitar, they're like a threesome, and I'm the odd man out, so it's amazing that obviously they're very sensitive, they're artistic people, right? They're very sensitive. Obviously they wouldn't write those records or record those songs if it wasn't because they're very sensitive. They had feelings and thoughts to express, and they feel strongly about things sometimes, so it was really cool to watch how they kind of like what you, not what you, and and Paul was saying, hey, this is basically, fact of the matter is that you made yourself boss, and you made me into the secondary boss. And John is like, well, yeah, but you still act like the boss, and they were going back and forth and whatnot. But the point was that John had noticed how they have treated George, and they just want to stop it. It's like, yeah, if you want this to keep going, which is the ultimate goal, is to keep the band together. Let's do this. So I love how they were working shit out. They weren't just like, well, fuck them, we'll get somebody else. They wanted to have their brother back, and they did. It's the most amazing thing to watch was John lighting up because everybody was back together. Paul beaming when he received the news that John was coming in for a rehearsal. Because right before that, he was about to lose it in front of everybody. And I don't mean like he was going to start, screaming in rage. He was going to start crying. You could see him trying to hold the not just the tears. It was he wanted to scream with how helpless he was feeling, because right before, his stomach is just like trying to, the emotion is trying to erupt, and he's trying to keep it down, bury it, and then the only thing that he can muster is, and then there were two, and his eyes are just about to burst into tears. It's amazing to watch to me how, again, like he always said before, so I thought I was losing my mate, my brother. That's if you hadn't believed that, if you thought he was full of shit, you can always see it. And we've seen it many times when he has expressed how he feels about his brothers. I mean the Beatles, the other Beatles. So it was really cool to watch him beam up, get really happy that John is coming in. When they first told him he's on the phone, it's like boom, he sprung up and he ran to that phone. And then he comes back, all happy, he's coming in. And then all of a sudden his mood had changed. He was, he was so bright and happy. And then John comes in. I don't know if it was the same day, but John was stoned out of his mind. I think this is the first time, or one of those, when he started doing heroin. And he came in, and Peter Sellers came in to meet the band. And John was rude. He was acting very strange, right? He was high out of his mind. I mean, I was like looking at him like, shit, I don't know what a heroin addict looks like, but I'm looking at him, it's like, he looks very strange. His eyes were like lost and very dark. Maybe because he had been all up all night, but I mean, I seem to remember that was the time when he started trying heroin because of you-know-who, which brings me to this freaking point. Yoko maybe didn't break off the band, but she was sure instrumental, or basically responsible, for taking John away from everything that he ever was close to or enjoyed. You guys gotta remember, he gave up music for a long, long time, to the point that he would be sitting at his, at the Dakota, right? And his guitar would be sitting next to his bed. He said that it was painful to look at the guitar. Pretty soon he lost his family. Julian and his first wife, his friends, his band, and their music. And pretty soon he was just a recluse, right? That doesn't happen by accident. That happens because the person is living with a covert narcissist. Someone who cannot have somebody else get any attention. It's quite sickening. Someone who is just completely self-obsessed, and they don't want you to have any other input, any other kind of relationships, nothing. They just want you to be cut off from anybody and them be your only focus. It's pretty obvious. Again, she did not break the Beatles, but she was responsible for what happened to John after that. And it wasn't pretty. So, that, you gotta understand again, John was the kind of person that if you him a compliment or just fill him with flattery, he would love you. And it was really easy to, I guess, maybe not easy, but John would tend to get carried away with people that he would meet and impress him in some way. Prime example is Magic Mike. I'm sorry, not Magic Mike. Not Magic Mike. Magic Alex. This electronics guy. The guy just fiddling around with electronics, and somehow made John believe that he was an inventor. And he had all these amazing inventions, and that's why John named him Magic Mike, because he could do magic with electronics. So he was literally like the head electronics engineer at Apple. Projects that were completely ridiculous. You'll watch the documentary, you'll see some of them. At one point, he promised the Beatles that he was going to make an 8-track recording studio. The Beatles came back to the recording studio and then found 8 speakers. Yeah, that was his idea of an 8-track recording studio. Did you see George's 8-track recording device? I'm looking at my GarageBand app right now, and I'm looking at him like that's the same thing. It has different tracks, and I'm like, that was the topmost of the uppermost. Amazing how far we've come in electronics. To make these pictures just so rich and amazing. There's watching that. I'm getting ahead of myself, but it's just the definition. It's almost like you have them here in your home. you're inside the, Apple, and you're watching them rehearse or Twickenham. Anyway, so John gets really excited with people that flatter him. It's really easy to impress John, and in a good and in a bad way. Obviously, he was really impressed with Martin Luther King's speech, and he was saying, speaking of him, he's like, yeah, he was beautiful, he was saying these things, like a poet. It was really wonderful, and he was so moved and inspired, So even when Billy Preston showed up for the first rehearsal, I guess, first time that Billy rehearsed with the Beatles, John is heard saying, I have a dream, and Billy is like, oh, they had this moment where they acknowledged that, they were into the same thing. Social justice and, the civil rights movement, and, it was, again, the Beatles were one of those artists that said, we're not playing to segregated audiences. You can't separate these kids. They're just kids. So if you separate them, we don't play. And a lot of these people couldn't say no. That was breaking ground, because a lot of artists did not get involved in these things, Anywho, so that was really cool to see because, again, like I said before, Billy Preston officially is the 5th Beatle. They offered him the job. They got him contracts. He was gonna get paid. I think he did, obviously, because he did record 2 albums for Apple. But yeah, wasn't that wonderful? I don't know if you guys remember Paul's reaction when he first heard Billy Preston playing with him. He was like, oh, there it is. That's the sound. Yes, he was really happy. George, tends to, be the most truthful of the bunch. so that truth can be harsh, borderlining and cynical. But, he's pointing out huge points. He was saying that at that point, at that rehearsal when Billy was there, that everybody was at their best behavior. But I think it is because, first of all, everybody was happy that they were back together, playing, because they got over that hump and they clear a lot of shit out of, they clear the air, So when Billy came around, again, John was so excited, and you know why? I think why. This is like that moment when every kid from a broken home goes, yay, mommy and daddy are back together. I mean, you should have seen him. He even had a little sweater on and everything. He just looked so correct, like he was saying, I'm gonna be good. I'm gonna be good, I swear. I know people think that I'm gonna screw things up, but I'm gonna be really good, I swear. I'm gonna be a good boy. Watch him. He looked like a kid. Again, happy that mommy and daddy are back together. It's so sad. I mean, you see these guys, especially John, where he's, even though he pretends to have this big thick shell, he wears his heart on his sleeve, but he speaks in code, so you don't necessarily get the fact that he's hurting inside. So yes, that was quite amazing to watch. Another thing that I noticed was little Heather. When little Heather came in, watching Paul interact with her, this is a guy who grew up basically carrying a bunch of children because all the aunties and and the sisters were having babies, and he babysit for a little bit, and it's another thing that John envied, kind of like was amazed by Paul, because he did the same thing with Julian. He was so good with children, and John would say like, how do you do it? And he's like, I don't know, you just play with them. And John couldn't do it because why? Nobody played with him. Again, poor John. Anyway, same, Paul being the way he is, I mean, I think I already mentioned, how much he was hurting, during the whole process. But then, once they got on playing, dude, these guys, like children, dude, like children on sugar. Playing all kinds of songs, all kinds of sounds, just messing around, because you can't always be just, let's rehearse this, back to the top, back to Dakota, or whatever. It's like they're trying to shake off whatever tension builds up just by being silly, I love that. And yeah, obviously you get the banter, and who doesn't love a Beatle banter? I live for those freaking things, whenever they just, what are you doing? Talking to each other and fighting amongst themselves. Arguing and making fun of each other and stuff. That's just, that's uniquely Beatle. Anyway, I think I spoke pretty much about, I hope I spoke about everything that I wanted to touch on. I made a list this time, so I'm not rambling on like a crazy man. So let me know in the comments if you guys like this format, if you just want me to be quiet, if you want me to be on camera. Oh, wait, that's right, I disabled the comments. Well, for you folks on Facebook, leave a comment there. Yeah, let me know if you guys like this format of, quiet, relaxing voice or more, because I tend to get loud too. And being that it's late and I got a good mic, I wanna try just, cause sometimes, I'm like that. I don't voice. And sometimes I like to listen to things, especially if they're informative, so it's not just a waste of time or entertaining, that have a nice, quiet, mellow voice. It doesn't disturb me. It's just I just want to relax and receive information. I don't want to be all, I don't want to be scared. So anyway, that was the second part. I will speak about the third part later, probably tomorrow, and I'll post it right away. And yeah, so you'll have a good night, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. That was my stomach. Time to go eat. It's just, once I start talking, every part of me wants to speak. That didn't sound right. Anyway, talk to you guys later. For our last number, I'd like to ask your help. Could the people in the Jeep seats clap your hands? And if the rest of you just rattle your jewelry? Well, I like to sing a song called Twist and Shout. This sounds a lot better when I'm not whispering. Alright,